Are you guys able to hear me clearly?
Yeah, Disha.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll start. Uh, just a minute. So I have told about types of ML, machine learning. Let's see that. If you do not understand anything, then at that particular moment only, please let me know. I'll try to explain it better. And also, if I make a mistake, please let me know. I'll correct it, or at least I'll try to correct it. That is whether it depends whether I have the knowledge or not. So we should start from introduction to machine learning. Yesterday we completed till here 5 important artificial intelligence predictions. We have completed this about the politics, and then transparent AI was here somewhere. Okay, no, AI assistant, and then this I had explained about healthcare, why healthcare should will be most affected. Let's go to the next chapter. Machine learning, what it is and why it matters. See, most of the chapters in this, I'll tell you. You all are able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Hello? You all are able to see my screen?
Bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I audible enough for you all?
Yeah.
Okay, so see here, there is difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning, neural networks, and the same thing is here also, machine learning, deep learning, and then here neural networks. See, this is introduction to deep learning, quick guide to deep learning, brief introduction to neural network, artificial neural network. All these are very related. Like I do not have to explain each and everything. When you start reading, you will know. Now we'll start with the second chapter, second point, machine learning, how it works and why we need it. So first we'll go through this video.
Machine learning, AI,
machine learning,
artificial intelligence, machine learning, AI, machine learning,
AI.
Confusing, right? Artificial intelligence and
Are you all able to hear the sound of video?
Yes, sir.
machine learning are often used interchangeably, so they must relate to each other. But how? AI, or artificial intelligence, is the science of training machines to perform human tasks. The term was invented in the 1950s when scientists began exploring how computers could solve problems on their own. Most of the time when you hear AI, you probably see these ridiculous images.
I grew up at the time when we were watching the Jetsons and 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they had HAL, the talking computer. So
You see, in the video, he has told HAL, the talking computer. HAL, the talking computer. I'll show it. It's a computer from a movie named 2001: Space Odyssey. This is a movie from 1968. This is a interesting movie, but some might find it boring. In this movie, they go on Mars. They go on Mars. Sorry, not Mars. They go on Moon, and then they also go beyond Jupiter. So you can see there is a computer that behaves like human. It is just shown like this. It has got a camera. It has got a camera and a speaker. It is able to interact with humans on the spaceship. So this movie came out in 1968, but it was way advanced during its time. It was a very famous movie. It would be good if you all watched it. Although it's not necessary to watch this movie for this chapter, but it's an interesting movie.
For me, artificial intelligence is really like a computer or machines that are given properties, human-like properties.
We take for granted how our brains effortlessly calculate the world around us every second of every day. AI is the concept that a computer can do the same.
All of our speech.
Like I had said in previous class, AI means artificial intelligence. We are not AI, we are natural intelligence. We are created by nature or the Almighty, whatever you might believe. So we have got natural intelligence, whereas AI means artificial intelligence. Artificial means created by humans. So AI means intelligence that has been created by humans.
Interfaces for our devices are AI. And it's incredible. You can have an accent, you can be speaking a particular dialect that, as long as there's data on the internet with that language, these AI systems can quickly develop a way of interacting.
So what that person is trying to say is, if you have a language on the internet, like if you take Kannada for example, there are many dialects of Kannada. There is Tulu, one which I know of, then Bangalore Kannada, then also towards the Maharashtra Goa border they speak some different Kannada. Now if all these Kannada words and the way they speak, accent were online, all these accents and words were on the internet, then the computer can pick it up and understand it, and next time you interact it with if you interact with the computer in Tulu, it will also interact with you in Tulu. If you interact with Bangalore's Kannada, it will interact with you in Bangalore's Kannada. Just the data has to be there, and the computer will pick it up and learn it by itself.
I can pick up my phone and I can ask it questions, like I can say, Siri, say my name.
You're Tom, but since we're friends, I get to call you LR Smiley. While AI is the broad science of mimicking human abilities, machine learning is a specific subset of AI that trains a machine how to learn. Machine learning models look for patterns in data and try to draw conclusions. You or I would.
They're not being explicitly programmed by people. You can actually give them examples, and they're going to learn what to do from those examples. That's a huge difference, because it's much easier for us humans to give examples than it is for us to write code.
So what the person was trying to say is, instead of typing each and everything, like whenever you create a computer program, we have to type certain codes. We have to tell it what to take in, what to not take in, and what to make out, what to understand from the data it has got. Now typing all that for each and everything, like each and every time you cross a road, you take a turn, or you stop at red light, or say you prevent an accident by not hitting someone on the road, that is really tough. Like you'll need code, you'll need to type in every time. Now instead of typing every time or telling it what to do every time, you can just put a camera and some processors, make a simple code that just watch me and learn from me. Then when each time stop at red light and go at green light, the computer will understand that it should stop at red light, go at green light. Or each time you avoid dashing someone, you slow down your car, it will understand when to slow down, when not to dash someone. So it'll just see you and learn from you. It is just like a baby. A baby speaks whatever you teach it. Similarly, you will be teaching the AI.
Algorithm gets really good at drawing the right conclusions. It applies that knowledge to new sets of data.
That's the life cycles. Ask the question, collect the data, train the algorithm, try it out, collect feedback, use the feedback.
Okay, so here what he's saying is, collect the data. First you have to know that there is a left turn or a right turn, or is there a red light or a green light, is the road clear or is there some obstacle. Then train the algorithm accordingly. Like if you get red light, always stop. If you get green light, always go. And if you get green light, if you get an obstacle, say somebody is standing in front of you, then you should stop. Now there might come a time that it is a green light, so computer will think let's go, but a person is standing in front of your car. That time computer will think stop. So it will go into error, whether I should go or whether I should stop. At that moment, you have to train it that even if it is green light, you have to stop because somebody is standing in front of you. Then next, try it out. You should test the software, whether it's working properly or not. Collect the feedback and use the feedback. That is, whether it's working properly or not, take that data, check it, use the feedback, and then train it again. Send the data again that no, you are supposed to stop at this junction, you are supposed to take left turn or the right turn.
To make the algorithm better, so you have increasing accuracy and performance. Ta-da! Machine learning.
Look at the Google car. It has lasers on the top, which are telling it where it is in terms of the surrounding area. It has radar in the front, which is informing the car.
Performance. Ta-da! Machine learning.
Look at the Google car. It has lasers on the top, which are...
So you can see here, this part is rotating. It is collecting information from every side. It has got laser. Now I'll explain to you how this Google car works. Suppose you are standing here. You are sitting in a car. Let's just suppose that this is a car, okay? I'm very bad at drawing because this is not a graphical tablet. Let's just suppose this is a car. Are you all able to see the screen clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so this is a car and it has got a laser beam here, okay? Its work is to send out signals in all directions. Now what happens here is that when it sends out signals, some signals are going out and some signals are coming back in. Like there is a mirror. If you consider this a light beam, this is actually a light beam, but we can't see it because it is either in infrared or ultraviolet zone, probably in infrared zone. So when this laser light hits this wall, it bounces back and comes back into the sensor. Now what happens here is, suppose the Google car is moving forward, then it sends out data and this thing comes back very late. Suppose if there is an obstacle here and there is an obstacle here, okay? There is an obstacle here and there is an obstacle here. So the red part, the data that will go straight from here will bounce back and come back very fast. However, the laser beam that goes here and comes back will be very slow as compared to the first one. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So this beam of light or this laser will come out very fast. So the Google car or the computer will understand that there is something very close in this line. Okay. Now to make it simple, there is a car, there is one obstacle, there is second obstacle. So this is very close and this one is very far. Signal is supposed to go and then come back. Here the signal is coming very fast and here the signal is coming very slow. So Google will understand that this obstacle is very close and this obstacle is very fast. So do not move the car like this. Turn the car to this side because this obstacle is very far. So the car will come this side and it will be able to avoid this obstacle. Now what happens is, yes.
Sir, how that car move to another side, sir? How it will change the direction because of the sensor?
Yes, just now I explained that. See, it will be sending out signals in every direction because it was rotating. See here.
We're telling it where it is in terms of the surrounding.
Okay, so you saw that the laser beam was turning, right? Hello? You saw that the laser light was turning, right? Who asked the question? I'm asking them. You saw that the laser light was turning on top of the car. See again.
Feedback to make the algorithm better, so you have increasing accuracy and performance.
Watch here.
Ta-da. Machine learning.
Look at the Google car. It has lasers on the
See, on top of the car, there is something rotating. That is a laser. Watch it carefully.
top, which are telling it where it is in terms of the surrounding area.
Okay, so you saw the laser light, right? Hello? Whoever asked the question, you saw the laser light, right? Okay, I'll consider it as a yes. So suppose here is a light, okay? This is a laser light. There is first obstacle, there is second obstacle, and there is a third obstacle. Now, there are 3 light beams. First light beam comes, say, very fast. It reflects. Suppose you are sending one person from here to collect data, or you are sending one person, go and give money and bring this item back. Say you give money to somebody from your home. You give money to somebody from your home and ask them to get a chocolate. So he'll go to this shop and get it very fast. He'll go to this shop and get it a little slower, and he'll go to this shop and get it even slower. Same thing happens with the laser. First, a laser light is thrown towards every direction, and then it gets to know that there are 3 obstacles in front of it. The rest all are moving easily. All these lights are not returning because there is nothing in front of it. So, but 3 lights are returning. So it will understand that there is one obstacle straight to it, one obstacle right to it, and another obstacle on left to it. Now, next question is, which is far and which is close? So it will be able to understand, because this beam is coming back very fast. It will be able to understand there is something in this direction. Now this beam is coming little slow, so it will be able to understand, okay, this is far. Now this beam is coming out after that, means it is still far. That's why first it will not try to dash this and change its direction, go like this. It will change its direction. The car will understand that there is something very close to it. So it will change its direction, go like this, and then again it will get that this one is very close, but this one is very far. So it will change its direction and go like this. However, it will not try to go that side. It will always try to go in a straight line. The car will always try to go in a straight line. So it will just come like this, come back here. Now it will get that there are some signals coming from here and some signals coming from here. So again, it will change its course a little bit and move from this side. Did you guys understand? Everybody understood?
Yeah.
Yes.
Understand, sir.
Okay.
Area. It has radar in the front, which is informing the car.
And performance. Ta-da. Machine learning.
Look at the Google car. It has lasers on the top, which are telling it where it is in terms of the surrounding area. It has radar in the front.
You are in mute.
ಸರ್ ಗೂಗಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಸ್ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಕಾರ್ಸ್ ತರನೇ ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗತ್ತ ಸರ್? ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಲೈಟ್ ಬೀಮ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಲೇಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ವಾ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ? ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋಗುತ್ತಾ 20-30?
No. You see, the speed of light is some 3 lakhs kilometer per minute. In 1 minute, the light can travel much faster than humans. Our eyes, they will take more time to transmit the light into our brains. Our eyes, then coming from our eyes to our hands or to our legs, it will take so long time to prevent an accident. Whereas if you place a computer in place of humans, it will be able to do the work very fast. I'll show you another video which will clarify your doubt. See, what happens is, we humans tend to go, we break rules. However, machines cannot break rules. It is impossible for machines to break rules. They can be faulty. If you would have watched Robot 1, Rajnikant's Robot 1, in that the same thing is said, that machines cannot break rules. It's the humans that break rules. Now this car was moving. It was programmed that if another vehicle approaches from left side, stop, let the left vehicle go first. If at the same time both were trained, no, first leave for the right one. Did you understand? First leave for the right one.
Yes, sir.
Till now it is been programmed, first let the left person go, so it will stop. If the program was let the right person go, then this blue car would stop and the yellow car would keep moving,
which is informing the car of the speed and motion of all the cars around.
Now maybe this car is autonomous. This you see there were no signals in the previous car and there were no signals in this red car. So yellow car is autonomous, whereas red cars are driven by humans. That is why red car is moving, whereas yellow car is stopping.
And it uses all.
See here, it'll use the laser beam to make out what is in front of it. Laser beams as well as cameras. Now how will it use laser beams? I'll explain here. Suppose you have got a sensor and you got, now before that I have to make you understand what a picture looks like. Just give me a minute. Okay, so see here, I'll keep this because this is in contrast. If you zoom, this is the maximum I can zoom. So this part looks something like this, right? This part looks something like that. Now what happens is, like I explained in the previous slide, how the car is moving, this one. Similarly, what happens here is, it sends out a signal. This signal comes back very fast. This comes back even faster. Okay. And this comes back a little slower and this comes very slowly. So now what happens is, because, and if you keep a plate, say you kept a plate, what happens is, when you keep a plate, you send out a signal at equal time. Once only you send out signal. But what happens here is, first one goes, comes back, while the second one is still somewhere here. Understood? Till here? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, second one is still here, or maybe probably here. Okay, second one is here. Or to make it easier to you, first one will already touch the body and second one won't touch the body. Then after few seconds, what happens? Second one comes back, whereas first one touches and is on the way. In the third second, what happens is, the so the first one went and okay, so first one is still here. First one is still here. Sorry, first one already reached. Second one is still here. In the third second, what happens after some time? First one will be here and the next one will be here. So it will understand that the shape is like this. Understood this much?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it will understand the shape is like this. Similarly, there will be many beams and then it will be able to make out, okay, shape is like this, or whether the shape is like this or it is a circle, and it can see only one side. It won't be able to see the back side. It will be able to see only the front side, whichever. It will be able to see only this much, half portion, till where the beam can reach. If there is some, say, a mirror protruding outside, then it will be able to make that out. Okay, there is a mirror here. That much only. It cannot make out front part. The same way you cannot see the front part of the car, even it won't be able to see the front part. Then like that only it will use machine learning and find out whether it is a cube or it is a sphere or it is a pyramid. Understood how it will be able to find out the shape?
Yes, sir.
It will be able to understand. Now when you use only one camera, you will be able to make out only 2D shapes. But if you use two cameras or two laser lights, what happens there is, if you place one here and one here, this will take less time, this will take more time or something like that, and then it will be able to make out that this is a 3D picture. There is some car moving in front of it, and also it will use tagging, like I searched for car here, so it has understood what a car looks like. If I search for a banana, it will be able to tell me what banana looks like. If I search for, say, a bike, it will be able to tell me what a bike is. It will use both cameras as well as laser beams to calculate distance, and cameras to understand what object is in front of it. Yes? Your voice is breaking. You can type and send me the message. I'll continue.
That data to figure out not only how to drive the car, but also to figure out and predict what potential drivers around the car are going to do. And that's almost a gigabyte a second of data that car is processing.
One of the things that they're working on is, for example, the scanning.
Somebody asked that how will the car be able to process so much of data? So simple explanation is that right now, if you are driving a car, okay, you are driving a car, say you are standing here, so your field of vision is only this much, okay, you can only see what's on road on these sides. However, a car has got multiple cameras and it can see all the sides, not just what's ahead of it, but also what is on its left side as well as what is on its right side. And you can keep as many processors as you like, as many brains as you like. In humans, we have got only one brain, but in artificial objects, you can place as many brains as you like. In computers, mobile phones, in electronics, it is known as core. I had explained this yesterday, GPU versus CPU. That is, if you put a closer look, a CPU has got only 4 brains. The ALU, it is called, it is where the processing happens. Just a minute. The ALU is where the processing takes place. So you see on this one chip there are 4 ALUs, which means 4 brains, whereas on a GPU there are multiple, maybe 50 or 60 brains working together. One will, few will take care of left side, few will take care of right side, few will take care of front, few will take care of back, and so on. Now you might think, how will they be able to decide if they are all are thinking independently? How will they be able to decide? Then that thing I had explained when this green car and red car was going on, that who will be given better preference. We'll tell them left is more important or right is more important.
Right.
And if
on is
that car is processing.
having to go in and take a scan is, for example, the scanning of tumors. Can you just imagine one day where they could actually do a scan and determine whether a tumor is benign or not, instead of having to go in and take a sample every time they're trying to figure out what's going on inside your body? It's very Star Trek, right?
And
so there are 2 types of tumor. One is benign and
if you look at the number of
to determine whether a tumor is benign or not, instead of having
tumor are of 2 types. One is benign and one is cancerous. Am I right? Am I right about it?
Malignant tumor?
Okay, yeah. Benign and malignant and benign. Benign are not cancerous. Malignant are cancerous. Okay, malignant means cancerous. Same thing. Okay, so cancerous tumors spread, whereas benign tumors do not spread. So if you get a benign tumor in your head, it won't cause much issue. It will just sit there. If you get a cancerous tumor, it will cause issue. Now, how will you get to know whether it is benign or cancerous? That is, taking samples. You put a needle inside your head, take out the sample. Or there is another method. You come back every 2-3 days and get it MRI scan. Like they see whether it has grown or not. But imagining a system which will take just a few pictures within a minute or two, and it will be able to tell you whether it is benign or cancerous. Because cancerous means it will keep growing. The data that you get, suppose it is a cancerous tumor, and this is the size of the tumor. Next day, if you are you come, it will be somewhere this much. Okay, next day it will be somewhere this much extra part, and then the doctor will be able to tell, okay, yeah, you have got a cancerous tumor. But if at the same time we are using a very highly specialized computer to click pictures, then after 1 minute, as soon as there is one single cell, say there is one small single cell, extra cell, it will be able to tell you, okay, this is cancerous, this is not benign, because it is growing cell by cell at that moment.
To go in and take a sample every time they're trying to figure out what's going on inside your body. It's very Star Trek, right?
And if you look at the number of continuous streaming information from IoT, from the beacons and sensors, it gives us the ability to understand our environment much more intimately than we ever could before. And that's what AI and ML need. They need granular data, they need very large volumes of data, and they need extremely diverse data sources to be able to find the patterns and learn.
So if we can have a chatbot tell us in the morning, well, tell me the latest news. Okay, so it can read the stock market, it can read all of the financial numbers that you need, and actually that's really valuable. When I think about what's new and coming, I don't know if so much mathematics is changing, but
why not let
So we can already do that. We can ask Google to show news and we'll be able to show you the news. Tell me, how is the stock market today?
According to Wikipedia, a stock market, equity market, or share market is the aggregation of buyers and sellers of stocks, which represent.
It is not able to become like an assistant because it is not an assistant. This is simple Google search. If I had done the same thing in my phone, it would be different. I'll ask it something else. Wait. What's the weather like in Bangalore right now?
It's 23 degrees and clear in Bangalore.
See, it is able to answer my questions. Give me a song. This is not working here because this is not an assistant. Like I told before, if you use the same feature in your phone, it will sing you a song. Okay. Why machine learning is important? I have already explained this. It is because to train the computer so that they can work like humans. They can think like humans. Then in machine learning, a target is called a label. Target is what you are to achieve. In computer science, machine learning, that target is known as label. In statistics, it's called dependent variable. If anybody from statistics, they know it. Dependent variable is is the end result that you get. It is dependent because it depends on what all you are putting in. A variable is a variable in statistics is called feature. In machine learning, variable is something that can change. So feature is something that can change, such as number of people on road, number of cars on road, or like the weather, the clouds. Transformation is change. Feature creation, it is called feature creation in machine learning. That is making new features available. Then what is required to create good machine learning systems? Data preparation capabilities. It should be able to prepare a data that, yeah, okay, there are 50 cars front of me, 10 cars behind me, 5 on left and 5 on right. Similarly, it should be able to prepare a data that, yeah, clouds are moving towards Bangalore, then it will rain today. Or if clouds are moving away from Bangalore, then there won't be any rain. That is, data preparation was that collecting which direction is the cloud going. Data preparation is which direction the cloud is going. Algorithm is basic and advanced. That is, whether it's coming this side means it will rain, or it's going away from Bangalore means it won't rain. Automation and iterative process. Iterative means repeating process. It should be able to repeat the process again and again. You don't want to know the weather just for one day. You want to know the weather again and again. So it should be iterative, repeated process. And automation, if you set it that tell me every day, then it should be able to tell you every day without asking again. Scalability, it should be huge. It should not be that it should be it shouldn't be that only for one topic or for two topics. It should be for as many possible as many things as possible. I don't know the meaning of ensemble. Let me check. Okay, ensemble means it should be able to work together. It should not be that your phone works independently and your laptop works independently. If you get a call on your phone, the same thing should be shown on your laptop or a desktop. Then who is using it? I already explained how financial service is using it, how government can use it, how retail, that is shops, can use it. That is why I told check my previous video, because I have explained all this there. Oil and gas, you can find new energy sources. Please turn off your mic. Somebody's mic is on. Okay. I had already explained healthcare, finance, government and retail, and also transportation about traffic jams. Oil and gas, you will be able to analyze minerals in the ground. You can predict sensor failure. Like I told you, suppose there is a just a minute. Okay, so this is like predicting refinery sensor failure. Suppose there is a machine that is really huge. Are you able to hear me clearly? Hello, are you able to hear me clearly? Please tell me.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, so suppose there is a machine that is very huge and it's working day and night, and then there is a small crack over it. Okay, very small. Can you see the crack? I hope you can't see it.
No.
Can you see the crack?
No, we can't.
I placed the crack here. Can you see now at least?
Yes.
Okay, so the crack was very small for a human eye to observe, but the machine will be able to see it very clearly. The machine will be able to see it very clearly. Now, what might happen is, suppose it is rotating. Say it is a stone crusher. Say this is a stone crusher, although it is not so good. Say it is a stone crusher and this has got a small crack here. What happens is, next time you place a stone here, the whole machine could fall apart. The whole machine could break from here. But if at the same time you kept a sensor watching these machines, if you kept a sensor, say a camera, watching it, then at that particular moment, it will identify that there is a problem here, and then you can come and solder it. You can cover it up. Like you can put a patch or something and fix it. You can put a patch and fix it. So it will save you a lot of cost. That is how it will help in petroleum industry. Not only that, it will be able to tell when your petrol quality is going bad or somewhere leakage is there. Right now, say if you are working in an oil factory, in an oil refinery, and say you have got a tank that is full of oil. Say you got a tank that is full of oil, and you place some sensor on it. You place some sensor that you keep a pipe connected and it shows, okay, if here the level is this much, here also the level is this much. But suppose there is a leakage, then you won't know until it has moved very down or here. Only then you will get to know. But if you place a sensor as soon as, even if one drop of liquid leaks out, one drop of petroleum leaks out, it will tell you. What are some popular machine learning methods? So there are some popular methods such as supervised learning. there is supervised learning, there is unsupervised learning, then there is semi-supervised learning and reinforcement learning. I'll explain one by one. Supervised learning means you are telling it what to do. You are telling it exactly, if I am giving you 1 plus 1, the answer has to be 2. That is supervised learning. In short term, that is supervised learning. And like suppose you can tell it, it's mentioned the learning algorithm receives a set of input with corresponding correct output, that you have told it 1 plus 1 should always be 2, 2 plus 2 should always be 4, and then it can tell you that 3 plus 3 should always be 6. So it can use that. To predict the values. How you use a calculator similarly, and it can anticipate when credit card transactions are likely to be fraudulent or which insurance customer is likely to file a claim. So what happens here is, suppose you have got customers. So one customer is there who spends 10,000 rupees every month, and there is another customer who spends say 50,000 every month. What happens is, suddenly this customer changes from 10,000 to 10,000 to say 50,000, and this second customer changes from 50,000 to 2 lakhs. If anything like that happens, then the supervised learning will be able to tell that something wrong has happened here, because till now this person never crossed the 10,000 limit, but suddenly they have bought 50,000 items. So it will prevent it. It will not let that transaction happen. Similarly here also. But if the same thing was done, like instead of 2 lakhs, if it was 20,000 rupees, then that supervised learning will not do anything. Then you have to do. Then unsupervised means you do not tell it what you are supposed to do. So, one good example they had used in this was aeroplane ticket price. What happens here is, you give it a chart. I cannot draw a chart here. Just a minute. Okay, I'll just explain in short. Suppose you give it a chart that today the price of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so on Sunday the price was 10,000 rupees. On Monday the price was say 8,000 rupees. This is 10. This is 8. This is 7. And this is again 8. So if I give it that flight price was 10, I will not tell it anything. Like, I'll just give it a data that, see, this is the last 10 years data, and now predict the future price. So it will be it'll read that, okay, on Sunday it was 10,000. Maybe some Sunday with say holiday. Say Tuesday was New Year's Day. Okay, Tuesday was New Year's Day. And on that particular New Year day, the price was 12,000 rupees. So what you do is, you give it a data. Let's see, all these are old data. Now calculate the future price of plane ticket. So what it'll do, it'll read, okay, on Sunday it was 10,000, Monday 8,000, Tuesday 7,000, Wednesday 8,000. But when on Tuesday it was New Year's, it was 12,000. Similarly, when on Wednesday it was Diwali, the price of the ticket was say 12,000 again. And when it was say on Monday, Christmas, then the price was 15,000. Okay. Nobody get offended here. I am just putting random values. Do not go fighting that why did I keep less for Diwali and more for Christmas. Just putting random values. Okay, so what happens here is, it will be able to determine, okay, Sunday the price will be high generally, but if there is any festival, the price will increase on the weekdays. And then it will be able to predict that, okay, you have got say Dasara or I'll consider Eid. You have got Eid, then how many people are going to travel on Eid? Say on Christmas day there are 20,000 people who are traveling. On New Year's Day there are 15,000 people who are traveling. On Diwali there are 16,000 people who are traveling, and on Eid there are 10,000 people who are traveling. This is 1,000. How many people are traveling? Okay, this is the number of people who are traveling. So it will determine, okay, when more people are traveling, the price will be more. When less people were traveling, it was less. Now on Eid it is still less. But what you get to see here is that Eid is a holiday. It was on Wednesday. Okay, Eid is a holiday, which means more people travel. Here there were just 5,000 people traveling, but on Eid there are 10,000 people traveling, which means if normally the plane ticket price was 8,000, now it will be 10,000 because it is supposed to be less than this. 10 people is less than 16 people. Understood this? Everybody understood how unsupervised will work? Hello?
Yes,
Understood? You just give it a data and it will only make conclusions from that. That is unsupervised. Then there is semi-supervised. Semi-supervised is you give it little bit of information. Like you will give it, like you have given here, okay, same data you have given, but what you say is last year Diwali was normal, but what happened today is that due to lockdown, less number of people are going to travel. So what you say, instead of 16,000, maybe some 10,000 will only travel this year. So the price should be less. You tell it directly. Do not, or like nobody is traveling. Okay, nobody is traveling this year due to Corona. So what you do is, before the price used to be 7 to 10,000 or maximum 15,000, but because of Corona, reduce the price. So you will say, irrespective of the day, keep the price say 5,000. Sorry, keep the price 5,000. You tell it, okay, irrespective of the day, you keep the price as 5,000. That is what semi-supervised means. Supervised means you are telling what you want. Unsupervised means you don't know what you want. The computer itself will give you a result. Semi-supervised is a combination of both labeled, your target and what you don't know. Okay. Now you can tell it, I am expecting that 15 people will travel. You can tell it that you are expecting 15 people will travel. So keep the price as 6,000. But if the computer is able to predict, no, 15,000 is wrong, maybe today 18,000 people are traveling, then it will suggest you that do not keep 6,000. Better you keep it 7,000. Okay, that is semi-supervised. You tell it what you want, and at the same time, it will also tell you what it thinks. Then reinforcement learning. What happens in reinforcement learning is it is very similar to this method, unsupervised. It is very similar to unsupervised learning. What happens here is it learns by trial and error, which means whether it will get some reward or not, or it will get some punishment. Okay, now example of this I'll show you through a game. Suppose you are playing a game, you are going front. Wait. Okay, suppose there is an obstacle here, there is another obstacle here. So you are going straight, you dash it, you die. Now what you will do next is you will go front and then try to say this is the land. Okay, what happens here is you go and you duck and still you die. The next third attempt you go, make one jump, you pass the level, then you go front, you dash and die. Then what happens is, sorry, you see that there is some obstacle, you jump the same height and again you die. Okay, so next time when you start, what you will do, you will try to do a double jump and you pass. So next time you start the game, what will happen, you will just come, jump once and you see double jump and you'll pass the level. Now I'll show you example of that. Just give me a second. No, give me a minute. I'll finish this part and then I'll show you that. So we did till reinforcement learning. Now what is the difference between data mining Machine learning and deep learning. I already explained machine learning is where the machine learns. Deep learning is where it sees. Like you do not tell it what to do or what not to do. It will see that there is some obstacle and you took turn. So it is also supposed to take turn. That is deep learning. Machine learning is wherein you need sorted data. I have explained this before in my previous class. Please see the video. You'll understand what is the difference between machine learning and deep learning. Also, machine learning and deep learning are somewhat like this. Sorry, it's not perfect circle. It's like a Venn diagram. So DL comes under ML and ML comes under AI. It is something like this. You try to achieve AI, you try to achieve intelligence through machine learning, and machine learning has got many processes. One of them is DL, deep learning. Data mining. Data mining is collecting data. That's it. In simple terms, mining means collecting something, digging up and finding something. That is data mining. Machine learning is where you are teaching the machine. I have already taught it. Deep learning also I have explained. Then how it works, algorithms, all this you have to read on your own. These are the different algorithms. Neural network is one such thing. Decision tree is one such thing. Random forest. These are all basically just the types, the different ways. Like I explained in my previous class that you get, say, pass this or not. Say I'll ask, I need only triangles. So there is one triangle, there is one square, and there is one straight line. So only triangle can pass through this logic gate. This thing cannot pass and this thing also cannot pass. That is one of the decision tree or maybe random forest. I don't know which exactly. These are just names. You do not have to go in depth. Just memorize all these names. It might come for exams. I don't know. Then tools and processes. Now, what are the, how can you get data that is GUIs, graphical user interface for building models and process flows? GUIs means graphical user interface. That is this thing. How you are seeing the data, how it is being shown to you. Are you seeing in the form of a line graph, or are you seeing it in the form of bar graph, or are you seeing it in the form of pie charts? So that is what a GUI, graphical user interface, is. Then interactive data exploration and visualization of model result. I'll show you what interactive data exploration is. So I'll just open one thing. Give me a minute. Like yesterday, I had asked, not yesterday, day before yesterday, I guess, I had asked you guys to fill a form. Interactive data means what? I'll show you. So I had given you a form to fill and I have received some responses here. Now see here. Okay, so as you can see here, this is an interactive data. I can touch it and it will tell me what portion it belongs to, the pie chart belongs to. Here it is saying others. This is CZ portion, this is BZ portion. That is when I move the cursor over it, it is able to tell me what exactly it means. That is interactive data. Then comparison of different machine learning models to quickly identify the best. Now, like I told, like it is mentioned, there are many different ways. There is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised, and also the reinforcement learning. So you can decide which is the best. Either you can make a code or you can choose it yourself. If you make a code, the computer will do the thinking work and decide which is best, or you can do it yourself. Then automated ensemble model evaluation to identify the best performers. That is, you will keep a phone, a computer, a laptop, a smartwatch, and everything together, and you will get to know which is the best of all. You can also get repeated data again and again and reliable results quickly. That is, good results quickly. End-to-end reliable, good data, proper data, the correct data. Quickly, you can get it quickly. End-to-end platform, integrated end-to-end platform for automation of data to decision process. That is, from, you can say it like starting from the collection of metals from ores to the manufacturing of cars. Whatever is done, you can get everything if there is data about it. Give me 5 minutes, I'll show a video and then we'll end this. Shall I keep another class at 9? Shall I keep another? Okay, I'll keep another class at 9. Most of the things are repeated in this, so I don't have to show you each and everything. When you go through it, you'll understand. I'll just show one video and then I'll end it here. Just watch this video.
Welcome back, Sethling here. You're watching a player play Super Mario. Welcome back, Sethling here. You're watching a skilled player play Super Mario World. But this player is not human. It's a computer program I wrote called Mario. This program started out knowing absolutely nothing about Super Mario World or Super Nintendo's. In fact, it didn't even know that pressing right on the controller would make the player go towards the end of the level. It learned all of these things through a process called neuroevolution. In this video, I want to teach you about how Mario learned to beat this level, Donut Plains 1, what his brain looks like, and how it's all based on actual biological evolution. So let's start out by actually looking at Mario's brain. Let's play it again, but this time we'll look at Mario's brain as it's making the decisions of what buttons to press. It's going to look a bit complicated at first, but don't worry.
So this is a gaming algorithm. This was a game that was meant for humans, but the speaker, he created a program to teach the computer how to play this game. And the computer did not know anything. It just started pressing random buttons, like not actually pressing the buttons, inside only. It started going left, right, up, down, maybe pressing A, B, C, D, W, 1, 2, 3, all the buttons it tried. And then it understood, okay, if I go left, if I press the left button, it will move forward. If I press up, it will jump. If I press down, it will duck. Everything it learned on its own, and then it started playing.
I'll break it down for you. This structure of colored lines and blinking boxes is called a neural network. It's a simple mathematical model for how a brain works, but it can produce some very complicated behavior. With enough computational power, a neural network can come close to simulating a real human brain, but modern technology isn't there yet. On the left side, you have the inputs. This is what Mario sees. It's a simplified view of the level. The white squares stand for blocks the player can stand on, and the black squares stand for moving objects like enemies or mushrooms. On the right side, you have the outputs. These are the 8 buttons that Mario is able to press by using its neural network. In between the inputs and the outputs, all those lines and boxes, those are the neural network. Each free-floating box is called a neuron, and the lines connecting those boxes are like squares stand for moving.
There is a very important message here. Watch it carefully. I'll explain why it is important.
On the left side, you have the inputs.
Yeah, watch these inputs.
But modern technology isn't there yet. On the left side, you have the inputs. This is what Mario sees. It's a simplified.
See here, the black ones are the things that he cannot touch. He's not supposed to touch. And the white ones are the things he can touch. That's it.
View of the level. The white squares stand for blocks the player can stand on, and the black squares stand for moving objects like enemies or mushrooms. On the right side, you have the outputs.
Okay, so there was one very important lesson here, not just for the game, but also for your life. See here, what he said was that this is the input, okay? The black ones, what you are seeing on the screen, just observe carefully. Can you tell me what all you are able to see? Just give me.
Let's start out by actually look first. All the neural.
Okay, so tell me what all you can see on the screen. What's this like? An animal, right? This is an animal, right? Hello?
Insect.
Okay, insect comes under animalius. Okay, fine. But the software is able to see it as black box. That's it. Nothing else. It does not know that this is an insect.
Network.
Next.
It's simple mathematical.
Similarly, this insect, it thought it is a black box. That's it.
Model for how our brain works. But it can produce some.
There is a shooter here who is trying to kill him. Even that he has kept black box. That's it. Nothing else.
Very complicated behavior. With enough computational power, a neural network.
Same thing here. He's able to see a black box instead of an insect.
You come close to simulating a real human brain. But
again here, the flower that would kill him, he is able to see it as black box. What is happening here is we are able to determine, okay, yeah, this is a flower or this is a shooter or this is an insect and they'll kill us. We are able to see 3 different things. But the game the software knows only two things: one that is supporting it, the white part, and one that is not supporting it. I said why it is important in life is because you will face many things in your life. You will get friends, you will get your family members, your relatives, and some strangers. They'll try to pull you down. You just have to segregate them, that yeah, these people are supporting me and these people are not supporting me. Do not go on thinking, okay, this is my friend, this is my relative, this is somebody else. Do not keep it like that. Keep it simple. This person is supporting me, this person is not supporting me. That's it. And see, the same strategy is used by the game, and the computer is able to play it very well. It just knows that something is supporting it, something is not supporting it. It is not thinking anything else, and it is moving forward in its game. Similarly, if you keep your thinking also same, that something is supporting you, something is not supporting you, that's it. Two categories. Even you will succeed in life.
Modern technology isn't there yet. On the left side, you have the inputs. This is what Mario sees. It's a simplified view of the level. The white squares stand for blocks the player can stand on, and the black squares stand for moving objects like enemies or mushrooms. On the right side, you have the outputs. These are the 8 buttons that Mario is able to press by using its neural network. In between the inputs and the outputs, all those lines and boxes, those are the neural network. Each free-floating box is called a neuron, and the lines connecting those boxes are like the axons and dendrites in a human brain. At any given time, only some of these neurons and connections are actually being used. And this is what people talk about when they say you only use 10% of your brain. The neural network you're seeing is a pretty complicated one, and it got so complicated as a result of a 24-hour evolutionary learning session. So, to explain how neural networks work, let's rewind about 24 hours and look at how the whole process started. This is what Mario looked like at the beginning of its training session, all the way back in generation number 0. The program is probably even dumber than you thought at this point.
If you see carefully, if you just like go back and check the video later, you will be able to see that it is pressing each button randomly: A, B, X, Y, up, down, left, right, and it is learning at that time.
Often it just stands there and doesn't even press any buttons. If Mario stands still for too long, it'll cut off the simulation and try the next neural network. So it's mostly just jumping from one simulation to the next. But occasionally, the neural network says to press the right button, and the player starts walking right. Behavior isn't complicated, but it's enough to make at least some progress in the level. Let's take a look at a sample neural network to understand just how that works. This is one of the randomly generated neural networks that appeared in the first generation of the simulation. There are some green lines and a red line, and one neuron in the middle. Here's how it works. A green line is a positive connection, and a red line is a negative connection. A green line reading from a black or white square will turn its output the same color. Red line reading from a black or white square will turn its output the opposite color. In this case, the green lines read from the platform that the player is standing on and make the neural network press the right button as long as the player is standing on it. However, when the red line reads a black square for representing one of those Cape Koopas, it presses the A button and makes the player jump.
Okay, so what happens here is there is a green line and there is a red line. When as far as the green line is on the white boxes, the system will keep working. You can see that green line is connected to the right and it is working. But as soon as this red line touches something, A button or up button will be pressed.
This puts the player in a position where the green lines are no longer reading a white square, so the right button turns off and Mario just stands there. This is a really basic example.
Because the green line is not touching white box, nothing is moving forward.
It illustrates how a more complicated neural network might operate. The more lines and neurons you have, the more nuanced the decisions can be. So, how exactly do we get those more complicated neural networks? The answer is evolution. When Mario gets further right on the screen, its fitness goes up. In this case, fitness is a function of how far right it gets and how quickly it gets there. Only the neural networks that produce the highest fitness are selected to be bred, creating the next generation. It took 34 generations of genetic breeding and fitness evaluation.
So like I said, it will keep trying one after the other. It won't stop. Like I think I had explained. Yeah, like I explained here. First, it will keep moving forward. When it dashes, it will go one step up and start again. Okay, one step if I go up, I am able to cross that level. Then again, 2 steps will be able to go. Now, suppose if there was one more thing, suppose there was one more thing here, then it will try to say this huge it was. Then it will try to jump jump, but it won't be able to make it. Then it'll try to go down and it'll pass it. So your game will be created that you are supposed to go straight, take one jump, go straight, take double jump, then go one step down. It took 32 generations, means 32 trials to understand, to win that level.
Before Mario was able to finish the level without dying, get a fitness score about 4,000. You can see there were several places that got stuck for a few generations, but it always evolved out of those ruts. Let's take a look at a few of those ruts. You can look at the top left corner of the screen, see what generation number each rut occurred on. This process of picking the fittest individuals from each generation, breeding them together, and adding random mutations very closely matches the actual process of biological evolution that took single-celled organisms. Anyway, it's kind of neat to see what it can do. And it's based on a paper by Kenneth Stanley and Risto Mikulainen.
Okay,
it's a really great paper that described.
You can watch the video yourself. It's not so tough to understand. It is very similar to this, except all the lines are different, like different levels. Now, what I did was I created a simple level. What I did was I created a simple thing. But what he has done is he has created a complete level, and he has created from end, like you are supposed to go straight, but here you are supposed to go up, and then here you are supposed to go straight, but then afterwards you will die. So after that you are supposed to go up, and again you die. So after that you are supposed to duck, and then you will win the game. Understood? This is very simple drawing that I have made. Here it's just very complicated because he is playing very tough game. Understood, right, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that network, this network is called neural network, or it can also be called deep learning, because here it is learning so much. That's all for now. We'll meet back again at 9 o'clock. Is it fine for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay then. Bye bye. Everybody, see you at 9.